Welcome. This is the Multifamily Investor Nation webinar series. So we do these webinars on a monthly basis. So looking forward to chatting with you guys today about branding and marketing essentials for apartment syndicators. Learn how to grow your presence and attract investors. So I think we'll go ahead and get started. I've got some content to go through, and then I'll take questions at the end. Feel free to go ahead and add those questions into the Q&A box or the chat box, either one. I will monitor both of those. All right, so let me get my screen situated here. So a little bit about me to get started. So my name is Melissa Broom. I am the Director of Marketing and Public Relations for PassiveInvesting.com. I've got over 13 years of experience in marketing, graphic design, branding, advertising, social media, you name it. Anything that falls under that big marketing umbrella, that has been my wheelhouse for a long time. I've been with PassiveInvesting.com for just over 5 years. So I've really been with this company since the beginning. So if you remember some of the earlier webinars from 2020, 2021, I was on those as well. So I'm really excited to be here today and present. I live in Columbia, South Carolina with my husband and our 2 children and our dog. So we stay super busy. We were both, my husband's actually the managing partner for car washes for PassiveInvesting.com as well. So this was a picture of us recently at the car wash show in Las Vegas. I was there to support him and support PassiveInvesting.com in those efforts. Our car wash brand is Hurricane Express Wash. So if you have one near you, go check it out and let me know how it was when you're there. All right, so let's go ahead and jump right into the content for today. Like I said, we're going to discuss marketing and branding, just really a step-by-step guide and strategy to help you grow your online presence and attract more investors by building a magnetic brand and amplifying it through smart marketing. Let's jump into the first slide here. All right, so what is branding and what is marketing? Let's start with the basics because these terms are often confused. So branding is the gut feeling someone has about your business. It's how they perceive you, whether or not you're in the room. It's that emotional perception of your business. Marketing is how you communicate that brand to the world. It's the action. So think of it as like branding is who you are and marketing is like how people will get to know you. Brand equals perception and marketing equals visibility. Keep in mind, people don't invest in deals, they invest in you, especially in this business. If your brand isn't clear or trustworthy, your marketing will just amplify the confusion. So having a really solid brand, think of that as your foundation of your entire business. And then beyond that, the marketing follows from there. If anybody has any questions about either of those definitions, please put that in the chat box or the Q&A box. I'm happy to dive into that further. All right, so why branding builds trust with investors? Why does this matter? So think about when someone's going to wire you, let's say $50,000, $100,000 or more, they're not just betting on the property, they're betting on your character, your competence, and your consistency. And that's what branding communicates. So the 3 components that build investor trust are consistency, so a unified message, and visual. So you want to make sure that when you're putting content out there, it represents your brand. You're not, if your brand colors are red, don't go sharing a bunch of, non-red graphics, for example. It can be confusing. Clarity, a clear message about who you help and how. So make sure that messaging is consistent, kind of goes hand in hand with that consistency, but you want to be clear. It's not that we're not in a business of overcomplicating things. Things are typically fairly straightforward, but be a resource, be clear and concise with what you're sharing with your followers. Credibility. So, you want to share your experience, results, or borrow trust by aligning with a team or a mentor. You want to make sure that you have team members in place or a mentor in place that can really back you up. This could be just people you've worked with in the past who are willing to speak on your behalf. Make sure that your credibility is out there and that your following really trusts what you have to say. And then if you're new in this space, mentorship is a huge thing. You want to make sure that you You can technically borrow credibility from from a mentor or a co-GP, or you could do a JV situation. Be honest though, frame yourself as the bridge between investors and these trusted opportunities. So for example, at passiveinvesting.com, our real estate debt fund, we have co-GPs in our real estate debt fund, and our materials are go hand in hand. So you see the passiveinvesting.com logo and then the co-GP's logo hand in hand. So that really builds that trust, especially if the co-GP is fairly new to the space. Being able to have a company like passiveinvesting.com that's got, $1.5 billion in assets under management next to that co-GP brand really builds that credibility to build that trust with those investors. Building your brand. So here's just a simple roadmap on how to build a compelling brand from scratch. You want to ask yourself, who do I help? What problem do I solve? What makes me different? So you want to make sure that first of all, you identify that in yourself, because that's going to be a huge part of your brand. So use this formula. I help, this audience achieve this result through your personal method or values. So that could be, I help doctors achieve financial freedom through passive income, and you can get more specific from there, but use that as sort of a guide. And then you want to choose your brand identity. Once you've identified your foundation, you want to choose your brand identity. So don't overthink it. Pick a clean name, logo, and stick to 2 to 3 like brand colors, 2 to 3 fonts. Simple is powerful. We live in a world now very digital, very colorful, if you will. So I would choose something that represents some, simplicity, modern, strength. Those are all really good words when working with like a potential freelancer on getting that logo and the colors and fonts put together for your brand. From there, you want to build a website. So super important in this industry to have a website. It's a lot of people, once they get to this step, this is the step that scares people. But it's not hard to find resources out there to build your website. You want to make sure that it's got an about you page, an invest page. So obviously you're trying to drive potential investors to your website. So make sure there's like an easy button for them to click. If you go to passiveinvesting.com, we've got join our passive investor club. So use some sort of language or something to grab someone's attention. Join now, invest with us, things like that, keywords like that. Another way to capture leads would be like a lead magnet. So make sure that whatever lead magnet you have sort of lives on that website. Anytime you can drive traffic to your website is good for retargeting purposes. Once we can get into ads later on, but you want to make sure you drive as many people to your website as possible. Not a Facebook group, not a LinkedIn group. We want to be on our own websites because you own that data. If you're on a Facebook group, Facebook owns that data. So make sure that you're driving all of your leads to your personal website. And then testimonials and social proof if you have it. So if you've worked with investors in the past, maybe you've co-GP'd on a few deals, you want to make sure that you are putting that information on the website. Testimonials, in this business, even if you have one investor, let's get that one investor to do a video testimonial or write you a quick, short paragraph testimonial. Include just a quick golden nugget. Include a what happens next section so investors know what to expect. It eliminates the fear of unknown. And this kind of goes back to that testimonial. If you can get that person that's asking that you've asked for a testimonial to sort of share their experience as well. So not just, Joe was great. How about Joe was great? Everything he promised was delivered as expected. So really get into those details with, what happens next. And then, all right, let's jump to the next slide. All right, so your online presence reflects your brand. So let's talk about your digital presence, and it's how people validate you before they ever reach out. In this industry specifically, LinkedIn is the #1 platform for trust. That's where people are going for more of a business aptitude, business type relationships, investors especially. So make sure that you optimize your headline with your brand message and start posting 2 to 3 times a week at minimum. You can share education, you can document your journey. If you are looking at multifamily deals or, record that. Make yourself a quick video. It's easy enough. All of us have smartphones these days. All you have to do is stand there with your phone, record yourself at that property, show those potential investors that you're actually boots on the ground, doing your due diligence. And then share your insights. So that can be anything from, what's going on in the current market, sharing your perspective of any news articles that you've seen. Another good tip is to comment on other people's perspectives. So if you're following somebody who, especially somebody who has a lot of followers, take like a Yona Weiss. If you're in this space, he's great. He does cost segregation with Madison Specs, but comment on his posts. He's got a great following. So the more you can interact with some of these people who have really big LinkedIn followings, and that's kind of starts that conversation. Who knows who you'll meet in the comment section of a LinkedIn post. So keep that in mind when you're using LinkedIn. Another good tip is email marketing is super important. So that can start building your list now. That goes back to that lead magnet we talked about. Offer a free guide or a checklist. And then once you build out that email marketing list, you want to make sure that you are sending emails. So I always like to say emails should have a purpose. If it's education, advertising for a webinar or a new deal, you don't just want to like send an email like, hey, I'm here. Make sure you've got some sort of piece of value inside that email to make somebody want to click on it and continue to follow your journey. And that'll keep you top of mind for them. You want to make sure that you stay on top of, your weekly or whatever cadence you decide. If you're like, hey, I want to do a weekly email, I want to do a bi-weekly email, make sure you stay on top of that, and don't let that fall through the cracks. The next step is YouTube or podcasting. I also want to, include social media here a little bit, but YouTube and podcasting is great for thought leadership. It's optional if you're just starting out, but I would say, don't let perfection hold you back. If you start your YouTube channel, just keep going. Version 1 is better than version none. If you follow Dan for a while, Dan Handford, then that's something that he says. And I use that daily. Here's my version 1. We're going to build off of this. So version 1 is better than version none. If you're good at writing, start a blog. If you're good at videos, then start a YouTube. If you're good at just talking and you don't really want to be on camera, there's your podcast. So find what it is that you can tolerate, what you enjoy doing, and just dive in. The only thing that's going to hold you back is not getting started. So people will follow your journey, not your perfection. So don't wait until everything looks polished. Show up authentically as who you are and go from there. And, you'll meet people along the way who will give you tips and tricks, of course. So take that feedback and, use it for the next version of your journey. All right, let's jump to the next slide. Launch your first campaign. So now that you've got your brand built and your marketing strategy, you want to create sort of a simple campaign to get started. Create a simple lead magnet. It could be a PDF like we've got. So at passiveinvesting.com, we've got the 8 red flags for passive real estate investing. So we use that, and we've got other lead magnets as well, but that's just one example. Write a short article, have a video that you keep kind of gated behind a form, right? Whatever you keep it simple. Don't overcomplicate it. It's just something to start driving that traffic. You're going to want to have a landing page sort of on your website, and whoever you contract to or build yourself, that your website should be able to set up a page for your lead magnet. That is, it's a simple form. It's, name, email, phone number. It could be, how much are you looking to invest in the next 12 months? It could be, are you accredited if you're doing a deal that is for accredited investors? So have a simple form that somebody has to fill out to get access to that lead magnet. Once they fill out that form, obviously make sure they get the lead magnet. So if that's an email campaign or some sort of however you're going to deliver that to them, create a welcome email sequence with 3 to 5 emails explaining who you are, your process, and your why. Additionally, you want to promote this through social media, through ads, and through partners. So I mentioned ads earlier, but a lot of people get very intimidated by social media ads and think that they're super expensive, and they're really not. You can set your budget, you can really set all the parameters that meet your goals. So if you want to spend $100 a week on, promoting your lead magnet. You can set who you want to target. That could be who hit your website. That could be anybody who says their occupation is dentist. That could be parents. That could be anything. So you can go into Facebook Meta and set those ads. Same thing with LinkedIn. It works the same way. Meta is going to have your Instagram and your Facebook ads, and then LinkedIn is going to be separate from that. And make sure that you're sharing just organically about that lead magnet. So, if you post on LinkedIn about, make a post and then at the bottom go, hey, if you're interested in learning more about this topic, click here. And then that takes them to that form on your website. That form then spits out that lead magnet for this potential investor. Make sure that you use like a digital business card to connect everything. So there's a good service called Linktree where you can create that digital business card, and that sort of kind of houses everything that kind of goes with your brand. And that's easily added to like your bio on Instagram or your LinkedIn profile at the top. Common pitfalls and final tips. So before we wrap up, let's talk about what not to do. You want to avoid trying to appeal to everyone. You want to avoid broad messaging, inconsistency, hiding behind logos. Really, the hiding behind logos thing, if this is a very personable industry that we're in. So make sure that you're showing your face. That could be photos, that could be video, but make sure that you are showing your face and you're not just a logo. It's super important in this space, especially. I think the people who are successful, their personal brand, like who they are as a person, really represents them well. And also, don't just post once and then disappear. So you have to be consistent. I know a lot of people, social media is not their thing, so they say. You kind of, in this world, if you want to be successful, you have to use social media. It's so important. It's so powerful. So make sure that you're not just posting once and then disappearing. And then, don't just use, generic photos of buildings. Like I said, make sure you're using pictures of yourself and doing the work that you're saying you're doing. Do speak to a specific audience. So like I said that earlier, make sure you've identified who you're trying to help and make sure your messaging is curated for that specific audience, and share your personal story. Be authentic. It's very important. And then deliver value before asking for anything. So educate, make sure that you are really being that thought leader in the space. Visibility creates familiarity. So, and that familiarity builds trust. So, and trust leads to investment. So it's simple as that. So Dan has spoke about the know, like, and trust. So you want to make sure that people are getting to know you. Once they get to know you, you want them to like you. And then from there, you want them to trust you. So everything I'm talking about should sort of take people through that cycle, that know, like, and trust cycle. Where you want them is in that trust right? Get to that trust, because that's when they choose to invest, and then refer others to invest with you as well. Yeah, so just wrapping it up. So to recap, you want to make sure that you define your brand message. You set up your online presence with a simple website, lead magnets, social media accounts, and then you want to start posting with intention, with purpose, and then build your email list. So you want to make sure, start with the 10 people that you know. You don't need to be everywhere. You just need to be visible somewhere consistently with a clear message. And I think that's all I have for today. Thank you everyone for being here. If anybody has any questions, I'd love to answer them. You can drop them in the Q&A or the chat box. Let me make sure I have my chat box open. And if you're interested in learning more about passiveinvesting.com, you can scan the QR code on the screen there, and that will take you to a form to fill out on our website to join our Passive Investor Club. So even if you're, not looking to invest, but looking to see what we do at passiveinvesting.com, that's a great place to start. That's another thing is, join the investor clubs of the people who you look up to in this space. And see how they do things. I do it. I follow a lot of our other people in the industry just to see what people are doing. Make sure that because that helps you stay on top of trends or conversations that are happening in other places. Let's see, does anybody have any questions before we wrap up? Someone asked, would you recommend making a brand style guide? Absolutely. So, and I guess I'll dive into what a brand style guide is for those of you who don't know. So, if you work with a freelancer, a freelance designer, you can like somebody on, I use 99 Designs a lot. I'm happy with them. Fiverr is another one. Just look up logo, freelance. Upwork is another one. You're going to want to get a logo from them, obviously. And then also you want a brand guide. So that's going to have, it's basically a PDF that has your logos, your fonts, and your colors. Those are the main things. A lot of, depending on the business, and in this space, I think that's enough. There's other industries where I would say you need patterns, you need other things. But in this space, that's the really all you need. And then you can take that brand style guide and send it to a web designer. You can have, if you're gonna hire an intern to run your social media accounts, help manage social media accounts, they can have that brand guide. So yes, I would absolutely, when you get that logo created, have a brand style guide made as well. That just sort of helps with the longevity of your brand and that things don't get, you know, I can see when fonts are different personally. So not everybody's going to have an eye for that, but I do have a background in graphic design. So make sure you have that brand style guide with your logo package if you hire a freelancer. Someone asked where your car wash is located. Are any in the East Coast? So a little off topic, but happy to share. So yeah, Hurricane Express Wash. We have 31 locations from Maryland down to Florida, and then as west as Huntsville, Alabama. So there's 19 in the Carolinas, Baltimore, Maryland, Virginia, Huntsville, Alabama, Chattanooga, Tennessee, Fort Myers, Florida, St. Augustine, Florida, Greenville, South Carolina, Columbia, South Carolina, and then a few other small ones. But so yeah, feel free to, if you go by one of our car washes, I'll drop my email in the chat box. And I love marketing. I love anything that has to do with marketing and branding. So if you have any questions that come up after this webinar is over, feel free to send me an email. I'm happy to chat. I love, this is it's my bread and butter. So also, if you go to one of our car washes and have any feedback, I'd love to hear that as well. So yeah, does anybody else have any questions before we wrap up for the day? I'll give it just another minute in case anybody has anything. All right, so I think that's all we have. Next, like I said, we do these webinars monthly. So next month, my peer and director of investor relations from PassiveInvesting.com, Rob Gallo, will be on. I'm actually the one that updates the landing page, so I can't do that while I'm talking. I will update that landing page to his topic here in the next hour or two, but be sure to sign up for that one once we get that updated. And we look forward to seeing you next month. If you're interested in any of our if you're interested in any of our previous webinars, you can look us up on YouTube, Multifamily Investor Nation. Let me see if I have the link to that here. I don't know if I have that link, but search Multifamily Investor Nation on YouTube. We also have a podcast. It's mfinpodcast.com. Here's the link to it on iTunes. If you're interested, check us out. And be sure to follow us on social media as well. And I will go ahead and wrap it up for the day. I appreciate everybody's time, taking the time out of your busy day to spend it with me here. And my email's in the chat box if anybody has any follow-up questions once we wrap up. Thank you.